mind come up with all this stuff? Well, let me just tell you a simple point. Here's a simple fact. The function of the mind, think about it, how simple this is. The function of the mind is, excuse me, go back, Mr. Mind, go back one, is to create coherence between what you believe and the reality. If you live in fear, then you will generate chemistry that will manifest fear for you. If you live in joy and love, well, then you change your life and you live in joy and love. But the joy, love, fear, whatever it is still based on your perception and your belief. So the whole idea of the brain is to interpret the world and then send the chemistry inside the body to have your cells support you in the world in which you live. So the cells don't know what. My liver cell right now is buried in here trying to digest something I just ate, and it says, what's going on in the world? The liver cell says, I have no idea what's going on in the world out there. But I'll get some information because the nervous system will tell me what's going on in the world. So my nervous system's function is to read the environment, interpret it, and then tell my cells, what must they do? If I misread the environment, I misinterpret the environment, then I send the wrong information to my cells. And we've been programmed to totally misperceive the environment. We've been so programmed, we don't even know who we are. And the whole idea is, so where'd you get this programming from? Well, the programming comes from the mind. And I say, well, there's two parts to the mind. And they work together, but they're not the same. And this is very critical because we've generally put the two together and said one mind. I go, no, you have two minds. A conscious mind, which is associated with what is called the prefrontal cortex, a lobe of neural tissue right behind your forehead. That's the latest evolution of the brain. Before that evolution, the rest of the brain would constitute the subconscious. So we have a conscious part up in the front, and the big part of the brain is the subconscious. I say, guess what? They have two totally different functions and way of operating. And this is the critical piece you need to know about your life. And it goes like this. The conscious mind is the seat of your uniqueness. The conscious mind is you. The conscious mind is connected to your source. The conscious mind is the seat of your spirit and your body. Your personal identity is in that conscious mind. Conscious mind is the fabulous mind. You know why? It's creative. It's the creative mind. I ask you, what do you want out of your life? And you can give me a creative answer. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be successful. I go, great. That's a great creation. Where's that thought coming from? Conscious mind. Connected to who you are and what you really want. And I go, well, so what is the function of the conscious mind? Well, it has your wishes, your desires, and your aspirations. What do you want out of life? Your conscious mind's going to feed you and tell you what you want. Because that's you. This is what I want. And it's also the seat of, and don't use it in a negative way, positive thinking. Because positive thinking is creative thinking. I go, well, this is cool. This is the function of the conscious mind. She said, so what is the subconscious mind? A totally different animal. The subconscious mind is the equivalent of a record playback mechanism. It records your life experiences, and once recorded, you can push the button and play them back over and over and over again. So what is the subconscious mind? It's the habitual mind. It's where habits are. You can be pushing the button all your life and play the same thing over and over and over again. A lot of people say the subconscious mind is the font of hell, you know. That's where all the evil comes from. It's like, no. It's a simple machine that records. What you record could be good, and what you record can be bad. Don't blame it on the subconscious mind. Because without that, you wouldn't have the ability to remember things like how to walk. If you didn't have a subconscious mind, you wanted to go home, I would have said you should have started about 2 days ago if you wanted to get home because you wouldn't know how to stand up even. So the subconscious mind is a powerful ally because it gives us an opportunity, once we learn something, not to have to learn it every day over and over again. So what does it represent? It has your instincts and your life experiences. Yes, it records your life experiences in there, so when you push that button, it will play back what you learned. And more importantly, and this is very critical, it doesn't have just your life experiences, it has other people's life experiences. Why? It acquires programs through indirect learning, meaning I don't have to understand something directly. I go to school, the teacher tells me about it, and now I learned about it even though I've never experienced it directly. I learned it in school, so I have indirect learning. So the subconscious mind doesn't have just your life experiences, it has what people have taught you. So all of a sudden we say, yeah, the subconscious mind's got all these programs in it. And the significance about this is we have these two wonderful minds that cooperate together. How do they cooperate? And listen to this, because this is the key to your life. The conscious mind is not time-bound. What does that mean? Hey, what are you doing next week? You got a vision of what you're doing next week? Oh, then your mind is thinking into next week. I said, wait, what'd you do last week? Oh, if you can tell me what you did last week, then your mind went back last week. I said, wait. I want you to think of this fact in your head. And what will your conscious mind do? Stop looking at the world and go up in your head and start thinking. That is the most important point for this. The conscious mind not being time-bound means that it travels. Every time you have a thought, it's not paying attention. And how many thoughts do we have a day? How many thousands and thousands of thoughts do you have a day? Why is that relevant? If your conscious mind's not paying attention, then who's running the show? And the answer is the default, the subconscious program. I go, well, what's interesting about that? Well, the subconscious program lives only in the present moment. The subconscious doesn't know what happened last year as opposed to what's going to happen next week. If I could talk to your subconscious mind and say, when did you learn how to walk? And your subconscious mind go, today? Because it doesn't know any other thing than today. So the subconscious mind is always living in the present moment. Well, yeah, but here's the problem. This is the problem. The subconscious mind represents programming. Programming from your life experiences, yes, but more importantly, programming from other people. Your subconscious mind was programmed by other people in the early part of your life. And it works like this. You want to train an elephant in India. What do you do with that? How does that mean? It's a monster. It could be 12 feet tall. How do you tame, so-called, an elephant? Well, for the first few months of its life, you tie a big rope around its leg, you tie that rope to a big stake, and every day for the first few months of its life, what does it do? It wakes up every day and tries to get away, yank its leg, kick the thing, roll on its back, do everything to do what? Get away from the damn rope. After 3 months, gives up. It says, that rope's on, I can't move. I'm done. And I said, yeah, but that's a little baby elephant a couple feet tall. What happens to the elephant's 12 feet tall? How do you keep it tied up? If you tie a rope to an elephant to your house, he'll pull your house down. How do you tie up an elephant? The joke? You just put the rope on its leg. You don't even tie it to a stake. Once the rope is on its leg, the habit kicks in and says, oh, rope on leg, cannot move. There's a monster standing there with a rope that's not even tied to anything, and it's totally disempowered. The relevance? We are all like that elephant. We have been programmed in the early part of our lives to have ropes around our legs to tie us down, and we believe we are limited because we have these ropes. I said, where do the ropes come from? I said, well, look at the development of the brain. Now, here's an important part. When you put wires on a person's head and you read what is called EEG, you're reading brain function and brain activity, okay? And I go, really cool. And as an adult, you have a whole range of different vibrational levels. From the lowest level, delta, which is sleeping. The next higher level of vibration is called theta, which is when you're waking up in the morning and you're half awake and half asleep. Twilight reverie, it's called. And then you start to ramp up the vibration a little higher as you're waking up, and you get into the next level called alpha, which is calm consciousness. And by the time you put the key in the ignition and you're driving off to work, you'll ramp up to the next higher level called beta, which is focused consciousness. Adults have the whole range of activity, but guess what? Kids don't. Kids start off at the lowest level, and then over time ramp up to a higher level, and then to a higher level. The first year or so of a child's life, it's in delta, the lowest vibration. Partially because it spends most of its time sleeping, but also because a child at this age has a nervous system that can take information in, but doesn't have a nervous system that can coordinate a response out. So infants can hear and understand everything you're talking about, but guess what? They have no motor coordination to express themselves, to respond to you, and that's why they're so frustrated. That's why they cry a lot. They were thinking, if I could just tell you what I'm thinking, but they can't. But the next important part is from first year up, and especially through about age 7, A child's brain is predominantly in theta. Theta is associated with imagination. Yeah, sure. That's why kids between 2 and 7 can mix the imaginary world and the real world together because they're operating at that vibrational level of imagination. But it's something more important. But I'll come back to that in a second. By the time the child reaches 7 and starts getting older, it ramps up to the next level, alpha, consciousness. It is now expressing calm consciousness. And then around 12 years of age, it ramps up to the next higher level, beta, which is schoolroom focus consciousness. This is why education changes before 12 and after 12. A child before 12 cannot do that focus consciousness that a child after 12 can do. And I said, yeah, but okay, now what's interesting about this? If you haven't seen it, I really want you to look at it real carefully. Why? Consciousness is alpha. Oh yeah? Then when did consciousness begin? After 6. Then what happened before 6? It's called the programmable state for a very simple reason. Very simple reason. Theta is hypnosis. For the first 6 years of your life, everything you observe is directly downloaded into the subconscious as programs. It doesn't go through consciousness. It's not filtered by belief. It's strictly recorded exactly as seen. This is not an accident. Nature didn't do this to punish you. Nature did this to help you. Why? Well, it can only give you so much information through genetics. The rest of it you have to learn. Yeah, but how can you learn if your conscious mind's thinking, you're a kid, and you're a parent trying to tell the kid, here's 1,000 rules you need to learn today about being a part of society. The kid, after first rule, says, why? Why? And all of a sudden you realize you're never going to get to rule 2. So nature eliminates the problem. Nature says, good. You don't have to have the child worry about it. Everything you say is going to be downloaded, and it becomes a program. So a child observes its mother, its father, its family, its community, its culture, and observes them. The observations go straight down into the subconscious and become behavioral programs. And all of a sudden you start to say, oh my God, this is where we get enculturated. How do I live in a culture? How do I know how to speak to a policeman separate than a kid? Because I saw my father talk to a policeman totally different than when he talked to a kid. And I started to see how my father's behaviors were. And the consequence was I downloaded my father's behavior. And all of a sudden I have these in my subconscious mind. And here's the critical part that I really want parents to understand. There's a tendency for parents to try to goad their children like a coach. They say, you can get out there and work harder. Come on, go out there and you can strive. You can work harder. How do we say that to a kid? Well, we say, oh, that's not good enough. I say, who do you think you are? You don't deserve that. You're not that smart. And I'm not meaning to do that to punish my child. I'm thinking if I say those things, maybe my child will make a better effort. So we're out there like coaches as parents telling our kids things. And they say, I say, well, what does that mean? I said, but the child doesn't have consciousness. It's just recording what you just said. And all of a sudden you realize, this is where we get our self-identity. Who am I? It's not controlled by who I believe I am. I'm controlled by what other people tell me who I am. You're a good kid. You're a bad kid. You're not that smart. And all of a sudden you start to realize the number of negative things that parents say without realizing that the child's just recording everything they say. I say, why is that important? Because once that program's in the subconscious, it's always there. And all of a sudden you start to say, oh my goodness, what did I program my child with? Self-love? Self-esteem? Absolutely not. The largest portion of all of us in this world lack self-love. Why? Because we were criticized. And when you're criticized as a child and that's recorded, then you become critical of yourself. And if you're critical of yourself, how can you love yourself? All of a sudden, we lost who we are. We lost our love. We become programmed by these beliefs. You know, well, that's cool. That's in the subconscious mind. I go, well, here's the problem. This is the problem. The secret mind, how your unconscious shapes your reality. Why? As it says, according to cognitive neuroscientists, we are conscious of only about 5% of our cognitive activity, meaning only 5% of the time are you controlling your life with your conscious mind. I say, yeah, but why is that relevant? The conscious mind has your wishes and desires in it. 5% of the day, you're moving toward what you want. What happens the other 95% of the day? Your mind's thinking. It's not paying attention. When it's not paying attention, you default in the subconscious. Like, yeah, but when I get into the subconscious, what am I playing? Other people's behaviors. People's behaviors that have sabotaged me all the way up to this time. And I don't see it. And I tell audiences, let me give you an insight to this because you're all familiar with it at some level. I'm going to suggest that you had a friend, a close friend as you were growing up somewhere, and you knew your friend's behavior really, really, really well. You knew your friend, and you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day it dawns on you, your friend has some of the same behavior as their parent. So you casually volunteer, you go, hey, you know, Bill, you're just like your dad. Back away from Bill. Bill's going to go ballistic, like, how can you compare me to my dad? You're all familiar with it, and why there's two profound points, same story, two profound points. Number one, everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. Profound point number two, we are all Bill. Every one of us, 95% of the day, we are playing other people's programs. But why don't we notice it? And the answer is simple. Why are you using the subconscious program? Because your conscious mind's not paying attention. So when you're playing your subconscious programs, you don't see it. And this is where the problem comes from. We all have the greatest wishes and desires to make our lives into something, not realizing you're only operating 5% of the time with those desires. If you were programmed as one of those kids that threw a tantrum in the store, you wanted a toy and your dad wanted you to get out of the store and you were crying, your dad said, shut up, you don't deserve that. And you recorded that. Then I can say, well, what happens? You're 40 or 50 years old now. And I say, the moment your mind's not paying attention, what programs are going to play? The subconscious program. What program is that? I do not deserve. What's the function of the mind? To take the program and turn it into reality. So if I have a program I do not deserve, what do you think the invisible behavior is going to do? It's going to shoot me in the foot every minute to make sure I do not deserve. Now, it's really interesting because science has come upon this in really recent times. But it was interesting because the Jesuits, they knew this for 500 years. They would boast about knowing this. They would say something like, biblically speaking, they say, give me a child and I will show you the man. Or more realistically, they would say, give me a child until it's 6 or 7 and it will belong to the church for the rest of its life. What did they know? They knew that if I can get the first 6 or 7 years of programming, I own your life. You know why? Because your conscious part's only going to work 5%, and the program I put in is going to work 95% of the time. This information hasn't gotten lost by the leadership of our world today, because we've all been programmed to be what? Disempowered. Who the heck are we? What are we? And the reality is, we have been programmed with negative programming. That programming works when you don't see it. But let me give you the crux of the problem. You go out in the morning, think, I'm going out to make success of my life. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to find romance. I'm going to have a great job. And at 5 o'clock, you come home with your tail between your leg going, oh, what a hell of a world out there. I couldn't get there. Couldn't get there today. And I say, why? Well, it wasn't in my fate. The universe is against me. I go, that is the problem. Because if you don't see it's your own subconscious behavior that's sabotaging you, then we take on the role of victim. I'm a victim of forces outside of me when it turns out this is absolutely false. You are the most powerful people in the world, and you are the elephant with a rope on your leg. I don't care how powerful that elephant is, it's not going to move with that subconscious programming. So, simple point. Conscious mind, your wish, your desire, what you want. Subconscious mind, your habit. New science, you operate 5% from the conscious mind, 95% from the program. Why is that relevant? How much of your life is coming from your wishes and desires? Virtually nothing. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I got to get out of this loop. And you might say, well, how do I get out of this? How do I know what my subconscious programming is all about? Because a lot of it was programmed even actually in the last trimester of pregnancy and the first 6 years of my life. I don't remember what my parents were saying to me when I was just born, when I was 1 year old, when I was 2 years old. I recorded it, but I don't know what they said. So I'm going to give you a simple, wonderful understanding. You don't have to go backwards to find out where your program is. You don't have to go back and kill the messengers and beat up on those people that did bad on you. Forget them. They're the messengers. You walked away with a message. What's the message? 95% of your life is coming from the subconscious, so your life is a printout of your subconscious programming. What works for you that you like works for you because you have programs to support that. But anything that you do when you go out in the world and you struggle and you work hard and you say, I'm struggling to get there. So why are you struggling? The answer is simple. You have self-sabotaging, limiting, and disempowering beliefs that will not encourage that in your subconscious mind. So all of a sudden it says, do I need to go to a psychoanalysis for this? I say, absolutely not. You're living it. Just look at your life and see what's going on. What works for you works because it's supported by your belief, and what you have to work hard on and what you struggle for is your struggle is because it's not that program, that's not supporting you. That's what it's all about. So, you all remember the story called The Matrix, right? I say, where do you find that movie? I say, oh, you go in the store and you look under science fiction. And I say, The Matrix is not science fiction. The Matrix is a documentary. We are here to take the red pill. What's the red pill? To get you out of the programming. I'm going to give you an insight. It's a book that I have coming out this spring. And it's a really wonderful issue. And it says, what would your life, just think about this for a second. What would your life be like if you were not a prisoner of your subconscious programming? Okay, I'm going to give you the answer. Have you ever fallen in love? Come on, anybody ever fallen head over heels in love, yes or no? I mean, it could have lasted a day or a week, a month. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about that time in your life when you fell in love. Number 1, were you healthy? Almost everybody was exuberantly healthy when they're living that love. I say, did you have energy? Come on, I know you made love for days without stopping for food or sleep. And the most important question is this, when you fell in love, was life so beautiful you couldn't wait for the next day to have more, yes or no? Well, guess what? Was that like heaven on earth? Well, there's a scientific understanding now of how that happened. And the understanding is this. It's one of the few times in your entire life where you operate almost fully 90 to 100% from your conscious mind, and you don't default to the subconscious. Why? Well, if you're in love, why would you let your mind wander? Everything you wanted was right there. It's stupid to let your mind go when everything you were looking for is in your face. So what's the point? The one time in your life where you don't operate from the program, what did you do? You created heaven on earth. What's the limitation of us from having heaven on earth? The program. That's all it is. And that's why, unfortunately, the honeymoon ends for people. Because no matter how much you're in love, life gets busy. And when life gets busy, the subconscious starts kicking in. And guess what? The behavior in that subconscious isn't you. And that partner you've been with for that honeymoon period where you have all this juicy love going on, and all of a sudden you slip into the subconscious and you play your dad's behavior, and your partner looks at you and goes, who are you? Well, that's the end of the honeymoon period for a bit, for a simple reason. You yourself didn't even know what you just did because you don't see your subconscious. So you look at your partner and go, what are you talking about? I've always been this way, which is true. And then the honeymoon ends because of the compromise. What are the compromises? Behaviors that you downloaded from other people that do not represent who you are, but then enter into the relationship because you're not paying attention. The whole reality is you can have heaven on earth by taking the red pill and get out of this programming. But now I'm going to take you one step further for this. I never believed in spirituality. That's why I ended up being in a medical school teaching genes, proteins, medical science, physiology, body machine. That's it. We're born as a mechanism. We die. We were lucky. We were here. Then we're gone. I never believed in spirituality. When I started to learn the lessons from the cell, and I damn well learned all the important things I needed to know about life from the cells, they told me. The one thing I learned at the moment, I recognized that the membrane of the cell has those perception units on it, was this. As I sat there, after understanding the nature of this membrane and switches and all that stuff, it dawned on me, there are no two people that are biologically the same. I can assure you of that for a very simple reason. Take your cells out of your body, put it into another person's body, what do you think is going to happen? Their immune system is going to say, not self, and reject the cells. And you take somebody else's cells, put it in your body, your immune system will say, not self, and reject the cells. What's the point? Cells have a self. They can be recognized to be your cells or somebody else's cells. I said, where is the self? So I take two identical cells. I just picked liver cells. I could pick two brain cells, two nerve cells, two skin cells, two muscle cells. I wanted two identical cells for this reason, because two liver cells are basically liver in function. So almost all of the cytoplasm is all being exactly the same function, taking care of liver, okay? But here's what's different about it. One of them is Bruce's cells, and the other is Margaret's cell. I have two different liver cells, because if I take Margaret's cell and put it in my body, Bruce's cells will say, not self. Margaret's cell's not self. Get rid of it. Take it out of the system. And vice versa. I put my cells into Margaret. Her system says not self and gets rid of it. So I say, where is the self? So that's why I picked two identical cells, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the color from the slide of everything that is the same, with the intention of leaving where two cells differ from each other in regard to identity. I know the nuclei aren't the same, but let's ignore the nuclei. Let's say we did enucleation, so we don't have the nuclei in there. I say, where do two people differ from each other? And push the button. Lo and behold, where's the color? It's in the outer surface. And I say, what is that thing in the outer surface? I say, those are the receptors. Those are the antennas. I say, what do you mean antennas, receptors? What are they? I say, in medicine, we refer to a large number of these as self-receptors, receivers of self. I go, wow, that's really interesting. Well, what does medical science do with these things? I said, if I want to transplant an organ from person A into person B, I really want to make sure I can get as many of the self-receptors to match. That's what they do with tissue matching or organ matching, to make sure that they give a recipient an organ that is closest to their identity. Well, that's nice, and that's what they do with the mechanical stuff. I had a whole different thing. Blew my mind. What blew my mind was this. Well, we see the antennas, we say that's the difference between self. I say, no, you fail to see the point. They're antennas. They receive a signal. Where do you think the signal is coming from that they're reading? Just quick note, they're on the outside of the cell. They're reading an environmental signal that you receive on your receptors that the person sitting next to you does not receive, because they have a different set of receptors. Each one of us has different receptors. I can do a simple experiment. I can take my cell and I can remove my receptors of identity. It's still a liver cell, but it no longer is a Bruce's liver cell. It's generic. You know why? I can take that cell and implant it into any one of you. You would never reject it because you recognize a liver cell. But you don't recognize, it's not Bruce's anymore. I took off the receptors. Or I could do this. I could go to Margaret's cell, take her receptors off, transfer them to my cell, and guess what? It's Margaret's cell now. And even though it was my cell, if I put it back in my body, my system will say, not self. It belongs to somebody else. I transfer ownership by transferring the antennas. You still haven't got it, because I'm going to try and tell you what it's all about in this picture. There's a show. I say, we turn on the TV, and I say, there's an image on TV. I say, where the heck did that image come from? You say, oh, came from the television. I say, no, did that image come from the television? No. Oh, it was from the antenna. I say, well, it's picked up by the antenna, but the show is not from the antenna. Where's the show come from? Oh, the signal that is received by the antenna. So the show that's on the television isn't in the television. The show is received from the environmental broadcast, the signal. And I go, very interesting point. I go like this. We're watching the TV. The picture tube breaks. I say, hey, the television's dead. We all get, yeah, television's dead. It's not responding. It's not doing anything. It's dead. And then I ask this big question. The television died. Did the broadcast die? The answer is no. Broadcast's still there. You say, how do you know? I say, you get another TV, you plug it in, you turn it on, and tune it to the station, and voila, you're back online again. Guess what? I'm in a television, I'm playing right now The Bruce Show. If my television breaks, I'm still here. And how would you know? Well, ultimately, as the Dalai Lama can tell you, you're going to find another television. Because in the future, an embryo is going to come up with the same set of antennas that you have right now, and you're back online. But guess what? Totally different television set. Could be male, could be female, could be white, could be black. That's the television. That's not the show. The show is the broadcast. And all of a sudden I started to realize, oh my God, I just saw something that blew my mind. And what was that? I'm not in here. I am a broadcast. I play through this television set. Well, there was a moment of realization because I wasn't spiritual 40-some years of my life, looked at the mechanism, 1 minute later said, oh my God, I'm spiritual. I missed the whole devotional part. But then I had a very interesting moment of life because I want to tell you, I had a profound response from my own cells. Because at that moment when I recognized I exist as a spirit and I exist as a body, and all of a sudden my questioning mind said, why have a spirit and a body? Why not just be a spirit? And the answers welled up from my cells. And that was the first time I knew I had Jewish cells. I asked a question and the answer came back in the form of a question. I said, why have a spirit and a body? And the cells said to me, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? Think about that. Think about that. What's the relevance? If you're just a spirit, what does a sunset look like? If you're just a spirit, what does being in love feel like? There are no answers to that for a simple reason. All those sensations are derived from the cells of your body that take the information of this world, convert it into your nervous system, and send it off as a broadcast back to your spirit. You come in to this body to have experience. You come into this body to taste and touch and feel and smell and love life. That's why you have this body. So your spirit knows what it's all about. Without a body, the spirit might have a thought, but it will have no experience. And all of a sudden I realized the greatest cosmic joke that ever came upon me was the concept that people say, when you die, you go to heaven. And all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, when you're born into heaven. You were born into a garden. You were given the most beautiful garden in the universe, the envy of any other life forms in this universe. And we were given an opportunity to come here and do two things: to experience the senses and take them home with us to our spirit. But we also came here to create. And that's what we're here, to create heaven on earth. You've done it when you fell in love, but why leave it for that short period of time? Why not have it every day of your life for the rest of your life? And how do you do that? Get rid of the programming that has put that rope around your leg. Because you have touched heaven. And so to summarize how it would work, I use something that's really recent and in our minds right now. It's called the Mariner, the Mars rover. I say, what is that? And I say, that is the equivalent of a human being. You say, well, it doesn't look like a human. It looks like a go-kart or something like that. And I go, it's a human. Why? Because I can't go to Mars. You can't go to Mars. But I want to know what Mars is all about. So how do I handle that? And the answer is this. I send up this device. Guess what? It's got eyes. It's got ears. It's got ears to listen what's going on. It's got taste receptors to taste the soil, see what's all about. It's got temperature receptors, feel what's the temperature like. It's got all the ways of reading the environment that we read the environment so that we can experience it indirectly. I say, how does it work? I say, well, there's a guy at NASA, and he sends a signal up that's picked up by an antenna. And that signal goes in and drives the machine all over the place. I go, yeah, but what else does it do? Well, as the machine's driving all over the place, it's reading the environment, and what's the machine doing? Sending the signal back to the guy at NASA. I could feel like what it's like to be in Mars, and I'm not there. I'm here. But then also, let's look at it this way. We are Earth rovers. We come in with a signal that's picked up from our antennas. We are driven around by the signals of our source. And in our responses, we send the information back to source. That's why we're here. We're here to have this wonderful experience. It's the greatest gift the universe can offer. If you were just a spirit and you didn't have this body, you would be so longing for this trip. It's an honor to be on this planet. And this is why we should recognize it for what it is. And I want to say this. Grandma Aggie, Grandma, thank you. The indigenous people on this planet, thank God they're here. For this reason, we have lost how to speak to this planet. We have lost what it's like to be in the garden, how to maintain a garden. And it's the indigenous people of this planet, the Aboriginals here, the Native Americans in the U.S., the Indians in South America. These are the people that are still on this planet that have been talking to this earth and this God and this spirit and trying to leave us with a message of, what are you doing? This was so splendid. It was the Garden of Eden, and it's still the Garden of Eden. Why? Just as a terminal cancer patient that everybody counts is dead can have a change of belief and have a spontaneous remission, we are poised on a planet that many people have already written off as it's finished. And guess what? All we have to do is change our belief. When we change our belief, the planet will have a spontaneous evolution and a spontaneous remission. The garden will come back when we are ready to see that garden. And so I want to thank the indigenous people, because we should sit at their feet and learn everything we can how to talk to Mother Earth. And I say, well, what would be the consequence of that? I know there's some old geezers out here that remember Pink Floyd. This is called a prism, and it reflects something called refraction. You put white light in on one side, and the spectrum of light is expressed on the other side. I bring this up for a very important reason. People talk about the white light coming back to the planet. They talk about it in terms of some single individual, Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, the white light. Completely wrong, folks, for this reason. Think about this. The white light is broken up into the spectrum. The spectrum is a different frequency for each of the different wavelengths. Guess what? Each one of us receives our own unique frequency. And when you put all our frequencies together, we have the rainbow spectrum. And the relevance about that is simple. If I take that rainbow spectrum from the right and feed it back into the prism, it comes out white light on the other side. One point. If I say there's one person I don't like, just one person, I say take that person and throw them out. I take that frequency, I throw it out of the spectrum. I take the remaining frequencies, run it through the prism. Do I get white light out the other side, yes or no? Well, that is the message. Every one of us is a piece of the white light. Every one of us is a piece of God. You throw one person out, we're not going to see white light on this planet, because we are the white light. Don't look for other people to come and do it. We are the ones. We are coming together. This is the evolution, to bring us all together, to bring that white light back to the planet. And what happens when we bring that back? when humanity evolves, it completes the earth as a cell. The earth is a living cell. We are the protein receptors, the perception units of the membrane of the earth. When we download the signals from above and then create the responses on the planet, we are creating Mother Earth. But it's a matter of choice. And that's what this whole evolution comes down to. It's a matter of choice. I want to play a video segment from a friend of mine, Sean Galloway. It's called I Choose Love. And if we can have that wonderful volume that we love so well, let me start just because this is all it comes down to. What do you want to choose? Thank you, darling.
Or I can see tears. I see a choice, and love or fear. What do you choose?
Thank you, my darling.
I can see peace, or I can see war. I can see sunshine, or I can see a storm. I can see greed, I can see caring, or poverty. So what do you choose? I can see gardens, or I can see bones. I can see life or death coming on strong. Shining, and I choose to feel the whole world crying for the strength that we can rise above. I choose love. I choose healing, darkness dying. I see us dawning as one world united. So what do you choose? Love or fear? Oh, we choose. shining, and I choose to feel the whole world crying, and I choose to feel one voice rising, and I choose to feel us all united in the strength that we can rise above. I choose love. I choose love.
Thank you. Thank every one of you. I choose you. You are loved. I choose my dear Grandma Aggie. She is the teacher of love. I so honor Grandma Aggie. I so honor you, my evolution, my white light, my love. Thank you all very much. Thank you, darling.
Dr. Bruce Lipton. Wow.
Thank you, buddy.
Love feeds cells. Good equation, that. It's time to take the red pill. It's time for lunch. Just a couple of things to mention. There's food on both sides. Remember that. There's food over here. There's also food court, a village cafe over here. And during lunch, starting about now, Jeremy Roski, who's been involved and created the Voice of Youth for youth empowerment through creative expression, is playing in the Heart Village Cafe stage over on the right-hand side from me, through the entrance and to the right. So please go and enjoy that as well. There's food both sides. After lunch, a wonderful afternoon after such a wonderful morning, and beginning with Grandmother Agnes and Grandmother Pauline, who are down here before. And it's been a great pleasure to be your MC this morning on this stage and be taken over this afternoon by my dear friend Amir Pace, who'll be here for you. So enjoy lunch and be back here at 2:30. Bless you. Oh, yes. And also, during lunch there is a mandala being created. Actually, that piece of paper has disappeared. Could you... Come on, here. You come up here, come on. No, you come up, quick. There's a mandala for peace, for love, for beauty, Indian mandala. I think it's called Rangoli, is that the correct word? At lunchtime over this side too, so please take part in that, if you will. Thank you. Next to there is our portal in the field over here. The doorways are sacred and meaningful as each of us makes it. Let's empower it with our imaginations and beautify it with whatever we bring to it. So you can take some things over there and add to the portal, I guess. You can use it for your own personal journey, symbolically stepping into the new world of your dreaming, leaving behind any of the old that you still carry. Begin with confidence and commitment, a new life that honors your truth. Co-creating with the one we all are, the theme here today. So enjoy lunch. Thank you.